All right, let's get our Facebook folks in here before we start the show. Always scared I'm going to forget them these days. Did I spell? Is it morale? Did I spell it right with an e at the end? I don't even.
I'm checking right now.
Okay, good.
I'm checking the YouTube stuff right now, and I haven't proofed it yet. So
Okay, I can never remember the spelling of that one. Spelling, in the autocorrect era. You know who's the absolute worst spellers though?
good math
Doctors.
people.
I was going to say doctors. Like, God,
Yeah,
how much I have to.
I'm terrible at spelling. I'm like, it's just I was great in math, not good at spelling.
Yeah, I'm not good at anything. I'm just here to, I'm just having a good time. I'm having good at hiking. But appreciate everyone coming in. I'm gonna take that sip of Lion coffee here real quick. Damn, I should have gotten a little bit more before I started the show, but I think we're good now. I think Facebook's going, and it is Monday morning, 12/12/2022, 7:38 a.m. Mountain Time. We went a little bit long on Scott's channel with the Falcons. That's okay. It's exciting over there. And it's exciting in here today a little bit. We talked about it. Maybe a moral victory for the Broncos coming off of a 34-28 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll get the bad stuff out of the way first. The Broncos lost their 14th game in a row against Kansas City, which is insane, but it's where we are. Also, their 8th straight loss against the AFC West. All that said, the Broncos played probably one of their most entertaining games of the season, stuff to build on, and some winnable games here down the stretch for the Broncos, assuming Russell Wilson is healthy. Scott, good morning to you. How are you doing? How did you enjoy your Falcons bye week?
I'm doing well. I enjoyed about 35 minutes of the Broncos game. It was an entertaining game for a while there. I was like, oh God, this is bad. I text you because I was listening to the radio call, and when it went to 27-0, I'm like, you should hear the Dave on the radio announcers is like, he made that pick six sound just awful. It's like, yeah, I mean, kind of like Coach Klein watching film, man, he drops the ball and he's got time to pick it up and dust it off and run in for the touchdown while our guys are just walking around. Just it was a hell of a play for sure. One of my initial thoughts, Nick, was listening to it, and Josie Jewell gets that interception. It's like, and he runs down and they celebrate in the first one, though. Runs down and celebrates, this, and part of me is thinking, dude, it's 27-0, chill. And then, as I learn more about it, and in hindsight, I look back to it and I'm like, you know what? One, it was your first career interception. I didn't know that. So, yes, celebrate it. Two, you guys have gotten the short end of this stick all season while the offense is flubbered around. Celebrate it. And three, it sparked the team, Nick.
Yes,
that changed the game. You see all the time someone jumps out to a big lead and then they get complacent. It's up to the opposition, in this case the Denver Broncos, to see how they react. And they fought and they came back and turned it into an entertaining ball game.
Yeah, and hats off to the entire team. You find a lot about the character of a team like this, and it'd be so. I mean, God, you're 3-10. The team is injured as heck. The people are talking, and people like us, talking a lot of smack, and talking about this team's no good. Lacking talent, the quarterback, blah blah blah. Nathaniel Hackett's on his way out the door, but that team never quit. Down 27-0 would have been so easy to pack it in, go through the motions. I mean, it's no fun to get your butt kicked, and we were halfway through the second quarter, and it was ugly as possible. I thought we were going to a 50-3 kind of game out there. And you mentioned that the interception happened, and this team clawed their way back in, and it's still a loss, no doubt. And you have some more injuries out there. Mike Boone, feel terrible for him. I think Kendall Hinton got dinged up as well. Unbelievable. Hamstring. Yeah, it's just crazy. This team's injuries this season. Lucky to see Draymond Jones get back out there and have a good game. But this team fought, and I think still you're still very much on the Nathaniel Hackett's got to go train at the end of the season. But you can say that these guys are still fighting for him, because if they hated that coach and they didn't believe in each other or care for each other, lie down and die. They didn't lie down and die.
They're fighting for their own resumes, and he's fighting for his. They're saying, well, you heard Teddy Bridgewater say last year after, failing to get engaged on a tackle, you don't want to have film like that out there. That's kind of where some of these guys are, where Nathaniel Hackett's like, listen, like I said, he's out there setting up his next interviews right now, as far as, look, my team fought for me. These were the things that were going against me. And this was a good day for them. And again, I'm not saying it was a moral victory. I'm saying I would be proud of how this team fought. And for once in a while, it was entertaining. It was fun. At the beginning of the season, we were talking about, I promise you, this team will be at least, I don't know how many games you're going to win or lose, but it should be fun. It should be more fun to watch. This was fun. This was a good football game over the course of 4 quarters.
Yeah, well, maybe over the course of 2.5 quarters, but I digress.
It was there was some really bad in there, and we're talking yesterday, and I'm really, when people start knocking on the defense, it's starting to really bother me.
Yeah,
it's like, if the defense could have gotten them off the field, maybe they would have had a chance with Brett Rippon. I'm like, all right. I remember this game at 27-21. The next Kansas City Chiefs possession was a 3-and-out that ended in a sack. That's handing your offense the ball with a ton of momentum and a chance to take a lead. Nothing, 3-and-out. They did it again, 27-21, 3-and-out. Okay. They close it to 34-28, 3-and-out. The next possession, interception. That's 4 times the defense gave the offense the ball with momentum in a 1-score game. And we're going to talk about the 5th time where, no, miss me with that, man. They gave the 100%. Ball to him with momentum and a 1-score disadvantage 4 times on 3-and-outs. Or in the case of Josie Jewell's second interception, a 2-and-out with the ball at midfield. That's 4 times. I'm not talking about that they couldn't get the stop when the Chiefs had the ball on the final possession. No, miss me on that.
Yeah. No doubt about that. I mean, there's obviously things that we can criticize on the defense, but on the whole, certainly not. And also, I think the Broncos definitely had 14 points off turnovers, but it might have been 21 points off turnovers. And that's something we've been harping, at least I've been harping on here for all season. Broncos aren't really taking the ball over at a high rate, and points off turnovers is like one of the biggest indicators of who wins and loses football games that there is.
I think it was 14 because that third interception that I talked about that Jewell got, they didn't score on that one. That was when it was 34-28. But the 2 at the end of the first half were definite points, because that cut it from, oh my God, we are getting humiliated, to, hey, this could be a ball game.
Yep, got a game. Let's say hello to some folks in here. The chat coming in, Jake Gerard coming in saying, morning guys. Hackett said Jerry played a new role. Can you explain that, and why did it take so long to realize how good this guy is? They moved him to more of the X alignment, more isolated, dealing, getting off press, and he played great. I mean, the Broncos didn't really have much else to go to, but yeah, welcome to the, hopefully this springboards Jerry Jeudy. We got pretty lucky with Jerry Jeudy in this game too, because he lost his temper on the field and because he was being held by a defensive back, and then he made physical contact with a referee. That could have been an ejection, and we have a totally different story and narrative today surrounding Jerry Jeudy. Luckily, that didn't happen, and he goes on to have his best game of his career, 3 touchdowns in a game, and curious to see what they can do going forward with him. I'm hoping this springboards him, because you need some dynamism and explosiveness in the pass game, and Jeudy, easily the best game of his career.
Well, and I think they said 6 touchdowns now, and nobody else on the team has more than 1.
Yeah.
1. You've got, I mean, that sounds right. We haven't seen many touchdowns, and we saw 3 of them to 1 player in that game. But, and if you're moving him to X again, that's because Sutton was out. Sutton's been in that spot all game. Maybe you switch those guys. We talk about moving a guy into a slot, trying to get him started a little bit. Maybe you do that anyway. We need to get Cortland Sutton going. Let's drop him down in the slot and see if we can free him up a little bit more. The problem is, Nick, as you know, Russell Wilson doesn't attack the middle of the field as much. Mm-hmm. So where I had said where we'd see more of Jerry Jeudy, where I thought he could be a number 1 guy for the Broncos, is on busted plays, on extended plays, where he's using his quickness then to come back, get open, run after the catch on a busted play. But we haven't seen a ton of that this year either.
Yeah, not so great there, but it's okay. We'll take what we can get. He had a great game, and he's definitely the MVP of this game in my book, followed closely by Josie Jewell. Ethan coming in, the DWI guys, and good afternoon, gents in Broncos country. Good to see you, Ethan. We got Jeremy saying, morning, fellas. No moral victories, but definitely a moral victory. See, he got the spelling right, so I think I did put the E in there, so that's great. Good for me. Proud of the way this team fought, 100%. They kicking and screaming. not to harken back to an old head coach, but that was definitely kicking and screaming. Dave Glassman coming in with the hearts. We got Bama X saying, well, good morning, Broncos country. Bama, I bet you are excited about how Jerry Jeudy played. I know that everybody should be. And we need to see more of that. Maybe they need to take off Jerry Jeudy before the game. They need somebody, controlled aggression before they leave the locker room. Yeah, something like that. Just get them riled up a little bit. Yeah,
I think I already made one Waterboy reference. Use it on the field.
I tweeted it that somebody out there, Nathaniel Hackett, because he's a little bit of a goofball. The Monty Python. It's like your father was a hamster and your mother smelled of elderberries. Like that can now go get pissed off.
Fart in your general direction.
Yeah, 100%. Coconuts. Now, Darius Simmons coming in saying, I know this said everyone says there's no moral victories, but I really think that we needed to see that our team is capable of this. I'm happy with the game, even though we lost. I think, who needed this just as much as the team? The fans. God bless. If this team would have gotten blown out, like after that pick six, I was equally toxic and negative on Twitter after that happened 27-0. And if the Broncos would have gotten their butts absolutely whipped in this one and showed no life, today would be miserable. I would be sad coming on the show. And things would be, the discourse would be horrible this week. But because of how this played, I think that Broncos country themselves at least got a little glimmer in their eye, even in a loss. So God bless that team for fighting back because we needed it too.
Dom coming in saying the PS2 interception was dope. And it was also a good reason why instant replay was put in. It was because to the naked eye, that 100% looked like an incomplete pass, in real time until you can't see that he slides his arm underneath the ball and it bounces off his forearm and up. You can't see that in real time. It doesn't look like that. That's why instant replay was put in. Real quick on this, then I'll leave it alone, is I can't stand the college version where they replay every close play and stop time to do it. I want a 20-second clock. And I should be able to see that by the time they run the next play. And if I can't tell that it was wrong in 20 seconds, play ball. These 6-minute delays. And when the announcers start saying stuff like, oh, I'd really hate to make this call. You're putting me on the spot. The call's already been made. You don't have to make a call, you morons. The call has already been made on the field. If you can't change it, then don't. You don't have to make a call. It's already been called. Anyway, this was why they do instant replay, was to overturn the egregious error. No one's going to complain that was called incomplete. And then no one sees it and says, oh, that was an interception. Play ball. So very good use of instant replay and a hell of a play by Pat Surtain to get his first interception of the season.
Yeah, 100%. Great to see that happen. Good play and good vibes on that side of the ball. The takeaways. Obviously, the defense didn't play the most spectacular game, but it is Kansas City and Chiefs and Andy Reid. Really disappointing to see that flick crazy play that Patrick Mahomes made where Justin Simmons left his assignment. What do you even do in that one? I guess you got to hang on to your assignment better to not give up the explosives, but do your job, as Bill Belichick would say. But
they talk about baseball with him all the time, and okay, that was a feed, but you don't reverse feed like this, over your shoulder in baseball. He plays like a point guard.
It's Harlem Globetrotter shit.
Yeah, he plays. I can see some shortstop in there where the feed, different types of acrobatic feeds to the second base and the turn on a double play on top. But I see basketball player in him. He plays like a point guard. The no look over the shoulder type of stuff where he's delivering the ball any way you can, like a point guard would making a pass. That's what I see out of him. And there's just stuff in there you just flat out can't scout.
Yeah.
It's like, we talk about mechanics and footwork and arm strength and all this. How many of those plays you got beat yesterday because they had Patrick Mahomes and you didn't?
Yeah.
He had 3 touchdown plays that very, very few quarterbacks are going to make.
Yeah.
And
that last one.
Hats off to him. And it wouldn't hurt so bad if you weren't 3-9. You're like, hey, listen, we ran into a Patrick Mahomes buzzsaw, and hats off. Tip your hat. The guy made plays, but it piles on when you're having a season like this.
Yeah, it certainly does, but feel pretty good how they fought back still. And 3 interceptions from Patrick Mahomes. He almost had a God complex there at the end, but just kind of playing a little bit more loose and almost letting the Broncos back in it. But maybe we'll get him an Arrowhead. Yeah, you never know. RJ coming in 499 saying, morning, guys. Can't wait to see what this team looks like if we get a run game and offense and start to stop the run on defense. Less injuries also. I feel like I didn't really notice the run defense in this one being horrific. Now, Isaiah Pacheco had some big plays coming out of Rutgers there, 7th round pick. I mocked him to the Broncos in my last mock draft that I did. But I thought that the run defense was more of an impact, or the struggles of the run defense was more of a result of light boxes. They were spreading you out, and what do you do when you play spread? You empty out the box. It happens. So they didn't give up the big explosive run. I thought they were fine there. I mean, I guess you could use another defensive lineman there. The edge run defense has been horrible post Bradley Chubb trade, but yeah, definitely want to have more run game on this offense. You need to have better offensive line. Just real quick, the offensive line in this game, Russell Wilson had 6 sacks, hit 12 times, 11, 12 times. Not great. Some of that is on him. A couple of those sacks were on him. One of them was a snap count was different. The offensive line just kind of stood there and everybody blew past. But my God, I go to the game, I guess, in my opinion, for the Broncos. Luke Wattenberg. Oh my God. I know he's a rookie. I know he's a 5th round rookie. That was some of the worst offensive line play I've seen this season. And the fact that he was out there before they put in Quinn Bailey, who usually your 8th string tackle, and Netani Moody, who was definitely better. I mean, what the hell? Luke Wattenberg was horrible. Just unbelievably bad.
Yeah, he looked okay in the preseason, not going against Chris Jones. And he was at right guard in the preseason when he played, not at left guard. So, again, part of that's I don't blame a guy for being bad as long as he's trying hard and has a good attitude. It's not his fault that he wasn't ready to go take on Chris Jones in the first part of that. 79 yards, I think, total is 3.9 on average. But just to polish off RJ's, and RJ, appreciate you coming in, kicking us off with the supers this morning. All we need is a run defense, a run offense, and no injuries. That's it, man. That's a big part of it, RJ. And that's it'll start by getting better in the line of scrimmage. Your offensive line it's like these guys weren't all that great when they were healthy, and now it's atrocious.
Yeah, I will say that I thought the right side of the offensive line played pretty well. Quinn Miners
was all over the place. He was great.
Quinn Miners had a great game. Cam Fleming had a good game as well. But your left tackle, left guard, and center had some struggles out there. But I thought Quinn Miners, huge block in that Marlon Mack screen touchdown pass, and Cam Fleming had a solid game overall also. James Hyatt coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott. Good to see you, James. Got Blave Bliss in the house, and good morning, everyone. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Definitely off to a good start. Eddie Vasquez, morning, Scott and Nick. Pretty fun game to watch when we started to come back. Haven't felt that excitement since the Niners game. Yeah, Scott, you said you're listening on the radio and whatnot, but I will say that the stadium sounded as loud as I can remember.
I've watched it since then too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I listened live on the radio and then watched it immediately after.
But the energy in the stadium was as palpable as we felt it all season, and that was with a good number of Chiefs fans in the stadium as well. So Broncos country, man, they're rough on you, no doubt. If you're playing bad football and it's not a good team, they will be booing you and angry. But man, once they want to love you, you just got to give them some reason to love. Dom, also, good morning. Good to see you. If Russ wouldn't have gotten hurt, maybe we won. But building block after watching yesterday's game. Do you think the Broncos would have won if Russell Wilson didn't get knocked out?
Would have had a better chance.
That's for damn sure.
I mean, it's hard to say if they could have. He's been an opportunity before. And the problem is you needed a touchdown and not a field goal. That makes a big difference. Matt Ryan has a zillion come from behind victories or ties in overtime. He's probably got 40 in his career. I don't remember a single one of them being with a touchdown. They're always getting down and kicking. So it would have been tough because you've had trouble getting touchdowns, and they started doubling Jerry Jeudy. All right, this guy ain't going to beat us anymore. But again, there were 4 opportunities that the defense gave the offense the ball with momentum and down a score, and the offense went 3 and out or worse. So it's you don't know this. There's no reason. Let me put it this way: at 3-9, through what I've seen this year, there's no reason to think that they would have somehow had the testicular fortitude to go out there and win that game against the Chiefs.
Yeah. But it was fun.
No doubt. Found out though.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get another chance at him. So who knows? Probably not an Arrowhead, but that's why you play the game, right? Kathy Lund, good morning, fam. It was great to see the team tried to rally back. For most of the game, it felt like the same shirt, different dirt. Have a good day. Yeah, it was fun to see them fight back. And hopefully they have a little bit of confidence going forward. Leroy Williams saying we almost pulled it off, but came up short. I bet with better coaching and a offensive line, we win the game. It's kind of like what Scott was saying earlier. If we had this, and this, can't wait till next season. We will get the Chiefs eventually, no doubt about it. We're always one game closer to breaking that streak. It won't be forever. Patrick Wiltsey coming in here saying, morning, sir. It's good to see you, Patrick. Hope things are all well out there in Hawaii. We got Miguel coming in here saying, good morning, fellas. Too bad it was a loss, but what a fun game. 100%. It was a really fun
Little
game.
Little victories. Hey, at least I enjoyed my afternoon watching and came away with a buzz, watching that game. Like, okay, that's better. Like I said, if the rest of the season, if you lose that game to drop to 9-4 or somewhere, you're like, okay, but that one, it hurt a little bit more because you've lost every game close. And because, Patrick Mahomes had a game. Yeah, he had 3 interceptions, only the third time in his career he's had 3 interceptions, but he made plays that guys just don't make. It was off script. It's like, how do you defend against some of those plays? You got 4 guys on him, draped all over him, and he extends a play and finds a guy in the end zone. You can only cover for so long. Those guys are paid to make plays too. Best quarterback in the game made a few plays. It was a good game.
Yeah, it was a good game. Wombat coming in here saying, how can the play calling at the start and most of the first half be so bad and then completely change in the last part of the second quarter and all of the third? What changed? Well, early on, there was a couple plays where Russell Wilson missed some wide open receivers, which was frustrating, and things just started to click, especially getting there to Jerry Jeudy. I think the other thing that changed is that the Broncos got some momentum off of turnovers. Have not had much of that this season. So I think it's not so much the play calling changed so much, not the role of Jerry Jeudy changed. Yes. But I think the execution was better and the field position was better. It's much different when you have to go 50 yards for a touchdown than it is 95 yards, which it seems like has been consistent for this Broncos team this season because the special teams, seems like we get the best punting game of the year against us every single week this year. I know that's, anecdotal and way too close up, but definitely I don't think that much changed other than people started executing and making plays.
Yeah, momentum is a fickle beast, and they're going to relax a little bit when they're up 27-0, and then a quick turnover, a quick change. You see a quick change lead to a score all the time because the mental part, while you cannot measure it, is such a huge part of this game. And when the defense hasn't mentally prepared themselves to go out back on the field and there's a sudden change like that, teams score all the time. So even if you get the ball at midfield and you hold them to a field goal, you consider that a win for your defense on a quick changeover like that. So quick turnover and a couple good individual plays. And all of a sudden you're back in this game and doubt starts creeping into the minds of the Kansas City Chiefs a little bit. A little belief comes in. It's like I said, it's crazy how mental the game can actually be.
Yep. Michaela Israel coming in saying, I have some serious hope, especially about Russ. And yeah, this was not the best game from Russell Wilson ever, but he did look like he was playing some of his better football. And that play where he ran, we saw a little bit more athleticism from him in this game. Maybe that hamstring injury is a little bit further behind him. He has been dealing with that for a bit. And I think he suffered at week 5, but this looked about as mobile as I've seen him this season. And he put his body on that line for that conversion where he got it. And I don't know, you saw the replay. Did you see the bump on his head? I've never seen that.
They cut out of it before then, but you see him go in like this, going in temple first into the ground, and you see his helmet, is loose on his head, and his helmet's probably driving down into that spot too and hitting him in a place he's not. It was tough. That was a tough. I can see why he was a little bit on there, and I appreciate Dr. Van Nostrand coming in and bringing the yogiism in there for me, especially in baseball. He says 90% of the game is half mental. Great Yogi Berra quote among many. One of my favorites is probably nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. That is probably my favorite.
That's a great one. Man, I'll have to use that one. But talking about the quarterback here, this, some hope in Russell Wilson in this one. I thought that he fought really hard and maybe got a little bit of some points in the locker room. Does sound like there's been some, and people are losing and the team's bad and embarrassing and then people get ticked off when that happens. So that's understandable, but I'm hoping that with this game, maybe they have something to build on there. You did see him go out there and give it his all and get his ass whipped. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here. But the Broncos do have to invest in the quarterback position this offseason. Why? Brett Rippon, poor quarterback, need to move on from next season to get better. We've already seen it now. Russell Wilson's had a multitude of injuries this season. He's older. His play style, when he's playing like he probably should, means he's going to take some more hits. Broncos need to invest in a better backup quarterback next season. No
How
doubt.
many out of 32 teams, how many teams are playing more than one quarterback? 25?
A lot.
You know, at least it seems like at the end of the year that the whole Brett Rippon thing was a little strange to me. You know, that you signed him to the 53 after he was on the practice squad, and you really don't have any intention to play him. That was strange. And it may have been Bama X came in and said, I was surprising me, or Colin, I was just surprising me that throw for the touchdown. It was a good throw. You know, it's a throw he should make. You know, a Division I college quarterback can make that throw, which he was. You expect him to make, but he did. He made it in face of pressure, and it was a good throw over the middle, through traffic, and good touchdown throw to keep the Broncos in the game.
Yep, 100%. Richard Miles, morning, guys. How are we doing on this fine day? Doing pretty well. Tim Durr in the house, good morning. What's up, Broncos country? Not too much, Tim. Good to see you. We appreciate you coming in. We also got Desert Creature saying, was Baker so mad that we had to pass on him? Was Baker Mayfield so bad that we had to pass on him? Weren't the Rams higher than the Broncos in the waiver order?
Yeah, you make it sound like he doesn't have a choice where he gets to go. Where he would, and the Rams, I don't know if they were ahead, but it was close.
I think they were.
And you don't want to necessarily put in a waiver claim on him, because then you got to grab his contract also, where you let him pass through waivers and then you sign him as a free agent, which I thought that's what the Rams did, but I don't know for sure. But some of these guys I see, I think Lawrence is always big on signing some of these guys. How come they're not signing, OBJ? Because OBJ doesn't want to come to a 3-9 team. He wants to wait and play in the playoffs. Is Baker Mayfield an upgrade over Brett Rippon? Yeah, of course he is. But is he going to want to come here? Is that what you need right now for, is that what you need right now on your team? And Tim says they did claim Baker. So, either way, I don't blame him for not claiming Baker Mayfield. You've got your starter. They didn't. I don't know. I just think that you've got to do better in the backup in the next 2 seasons.
100%. They'll invest in somebody this offseason. Facebook user coming in. Don't know who this is, but appreciate the comment saying, any thoughts on Hackett keeping his job? It's been a horrible season, but getting another new coach means starting yet again from scratch. You don't start, I think, completely from scratch, especially because a lot of the same players will hopefully be here and the quarterback will be the same. But I guess, Scott, did this move the needle for you at all as far as Hackett's chance to return next season?
No. Like I said, there aren't any moral victories as far as this goes. It's still an L at the end of the day, and it's still another close game, another close loss, a couple breakdowns here and there. They played better, they played well. But I think the decision's already been made. 2 weeks ago, I said, even if he wins out, he doesn't know. Like, if he wins out and they finish 9-8, you're keeping him. But no, what are you, 3-10 now with 4 to play?
Yep.
So at best 7-10. I think 9-8 was my over/under at the beginning of the season. So no, this Nathaniel Hackett, God bless him, through not everything that's been under his control, obviously. I think new ownership group, a tank job of a season with high expectations. I think he's one and done.
I think
and starting from scratch might be better than starting 10 feet under.
That's true. If the Broncos finish 3-4 down the stretch here, if and buts were candy and nuts, whatever. But if the Broncos finish 3-4 down the stretch here with some winnable games, I think especially the NFC West games coming up here, maybe we have this conversation. Finishing 6-11 on the season would be bad, but that would be fight down the stretch, and also a team that was unbelievably injured this season. Maybe we have a conversation. And the one reason I say that is not because the Broncos, the record or whatever, but the fact that they were still fighting for Hackett and down the stretch here, I think it's a conversation. Also, the other thing about keeping Hackett is that it makes it easier that if you have failure in 2023, it's easier to move on from all 3 of the head coach, the general manager, and the quarterback, where if you don't have that alignment, then it's pretty hard. You're kind of always like one person's from the past regime, hiring somebody new, and then you fire the old one. And it's just like this weird cycle. So there is some merit, I think, in aligning all 3 for a get to the playoffs or be better or be fired kind of season next year. But I think it's very unlikely the Broncos finish 3-4, and therefore very unlikely that Hackett is kept around.
And Antonio Jones says you can't keep starting over, and you don't want to keep starting over. But you know what's worse than starting over is staying in a bad relationship.
Yeah.
That's what's worse. You ever been in a relationship like that, whether it's professional or personal, when you hesitate, and you finally just make your separation, and one of your first responses is, God, why did I wait so long? This feels wonderful. So, you don't want to keep starting over, obviously, but if you've got the wrong guy, you got the wrong guy. That's just going to prolong the inevitable. That means I'm going to be starting over in 2 years now anyway. So I agree with you, but if you got the wrong guy, you got to do something about it.
Yeah. Definitely tough. We got Darius Simmons coming in here saying, I'm torn between if we should draft a receiver or not. If all our guys stay healthy next year, especially with Dulcich, pass game should be really explosive. You do have to fix the offensive line regardless right now. Now, granted, you are without a lot of players, but what we saw from Lloyd Cushenberry this season wasn't cutting it at center. You have no idea what's going to happen at left guard. Right tackle, are you bringing back Cam Fleming? You don't have anybody there right now. The only person that I'm confident is back next year is Quinn Miners.
Mm-hmm.
So offensive line right now has got to be as Dom says in the very next comment, offensive line is the first thing you got to fix this offseason. No doubt about that. You cannot pin your hopes of turning around the offensive line on your single first round pick. You need to attack it before the draft. You need to attack it after the first round. You can't be in a situation where it's like, hey, I will take the offensive lineman there with our pick no matter what. Well, if the value is not there, then don't pass a better player at edge who has a chance to be a Pro Bowler versus a Dalton Reisner level guard. That's how you turn into a bad team into a worse team. So you got to pick the talent that's from the talent that's available. But definitely a pass catcher is way up there. And if the Broncos are picking in that 20 to 28 range, because Brock Purdy somehow winning games with the 49ers, then maybe that's how it plays out.
And if you've got 4 guys coming back next year, then you're not going after a wide receiver. If you go after a wide receiver, it means that Jeudy and or Hamler are gone, and you're replacing those guys.
I think Hamler's gone.
Then it'd be close. Then you're going to need a body. I can get an undrafted free agent to replace what I've gotten from KJ Hamler. We talk about how do you replace him? He hasn't done anything. I think we had that conversation at the beginning of the season, Nick. Who's the most important guy out here? I'm like, he hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
So he won't be hard to replace because he hasn't been healthy. He hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
The idea, the opportunity cost or whatnot, then maybe I want to invest in there. But you're gonna have some new wide receivers as you said on that one.
Yep, 100%. We got Malcolm Brown coming in. Hello from Homer, Alaska. Hope you're doing well, Malcolm. We also got Glenda Lee saying left at halftime. Man, Glenda, you missed a fun second half there, but I don't fault you one bit. I maybe would have left halfway through the second quarter after that pick 6. So I kept it on TV. It's a lot easier to keep it on TV versus deal with the traffic after the game. She also says then regrets missing all the action. Maybe I'll keep you around next time. But again, I don't fault you one bit. You're a paying customer, and if you said that enough's enough, then God bless you. John Leach, good morning from Philly. Here it's always sunny there. John, hope you're doing well. Thank you for coming in.
I think the sun's finally out. The animals were lining up in twos in my driveway this week.
I have not seen the sun in a long time out here. We're in the consistent darkness that is the Pacific Northwest in the winter. We got Jahari coming in saying tired of it. Fire the coach. See what you can get when he is not in control. Definitely seems more probable than not right now, but you got 4 more games and we'll see how they play down the stretch here. And Bam, go ahead.
No, I feel like I've used this reference before, that there is a certain calmness and utter doom, where I learned that when I was scheduled to take a final that I was completely unprepared for. I'm like, I'm perfectly calm. I got no chance on this test. None. I feel like I've seen more calm from Nathaniel Hackett. He's not quite as jittery. He's a little edgier, but he's a little, he's a matter of fact. There's no stress in his voice at all. He's a goner, man. He knows he is. He's like, but it's like, what I can do? I have no control over the situation. Now I'm going to go out and do the best job I can. We're going to go out and try and win football games. We got to score more points. And then I'll be looking for a job at the end of the year.
Yep. We got Mike Woodward coming in saying good morning, good to see you. I saw Ernie Mays was in the house too. Shout out to Ernie Mays, one of the most ride or die guys I've ever met for the Broncos. Love it. Dan Hall, the morning shows are really talking up Leslie Frazier yesterday for head coach candidate. Any thoughts? Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator Leslie Frazier. I think he had a run with the Vikings as a head coach as well. I'd be interested in Leslie Frazier, no doubt. I know that a lot of people really want a coach who has experience or a coach that's offensive minded. I don't give a flying what their background is, or I mean, obviously it matters a little bit to be you want a qualified person, but I don't care if they're a first time head coach, second time head coach, offensive mind, defensive mind, special teams coordinator. Just get the best guy in here. And something that resonated with me, I cannot remember who it was. I think it was Bill Cowher talking about how some of the best coaches right now, you see their teams kind of reflecting who they are. And he used Mike Vrabel and the Titans as well. He said, that's not the most talented team in the world. You know, they have injuries, they have talent deficiencies. I don't know if there's a team out there that plays as tough week to week as the Tennessee Titans. You have Andy Reid, very smart, getting guys in space, but like your team typically takes on the identity of the head coach. So I'm here for a tough, stares lasers at you, really intelligent defensive mind as much as an offensive mind. Just get the best guy in here. D'Amico Ryans, Jared Mayo at the Patriots. Patriots had the best defense in football this season. Nobody's talking about them as far as I can tell. There's a lot of different quality options, but Leslie Frazier also up there.
And he is lost 3 in a row. No, I'm kidding. On Vrabel, the Tennessee Titans are 7-6, yeah. But again, they're overachieving. Leslie Frazier, again, he's 63. Which is okay. That if I could get if you could say I'm going to get 10 great years, yeah, I'd take it for sure. Give me 5. I'd take 5 winning seasons. You got the job, and then pick your successor. Tony Dungy has been talking up Leslie Frazier with the Colts as well. So watch out. Remember, you're not the only one that's going to be out there looking for some guys, and there will be plenty of head coaching candidates out there, qualified head coaching candidates. And the Broncos won't have any trouble getting somebody to take the job. It's a prestigious job, lots of money. Those are pretty good combinations. This whole nobody will take this job BS. Come on, man. That's just lazy.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in, Dan Hall. We appreciate you. We got Luke coming in saying, is that a Chelsea shirt? I think I just puked in my mouth. Tottenham till I die. I said it right that time, Scott. Tottenham, right? Is that the right way?
Yeah. And watching the Spurs will kill you a little bit every day. So and Jeremy Sean says, I totally disagree. Hackett's demeanor has changed a ton. That's what I'm saying. He's not nearly as jittery. It's more, he certainly seems more calm and a little edgier. Where that was my point. That it's like utter doom now. Like he's reached a Zen level of accepting your fate because I can't control it. Yeah. So maybe you were responding to somebody else, but that was my point.
Yeah. We got Char Baldwin coming in saying, good morning, Broncos country. Good to see you, Char.
Char.
Hell yeah. Just Char, not Char.
Or Char, but I would guess Char, like Charmaine, Charlemagne. Maybe Charlie could be short for Charlie.
Well, either way, we appreciate the heck idea. Thanks for coming in.
That's a cool name for a woman, by the way, too.
Charlie,
yeah.
Yep. Jetty Splash coming in saying Broncos look like they were in adrenaline-fueled rage just to play like most other teams, running a disciplined offense. Defense was awesome. Yeah, it was a fun game. Anybody else that we want to talk about and hype up here? Obviously, Josie Jewell had a heck of a game out there. Josie Jewell is not the most athletically gifted player. He's not the biggest player. He's not the longest player, but man, that dude competes. And he's a solid linebacker. I know that we had a lot of discourse this offseason about Josie Jewell, but if you're still saying that he's a borderline starter, then we're not watching or analyzing the same game. He's been a B-level player out there for the Broncos pretty consistently. Biggest issue is his durability. That's been my biggest gripe with him, is that he's missed a lot of games being injured. But
I'm sorry, who were you saying? I was reading some of the chat.
Josie Jewell.
Oh, Josie Jewell. Josie Jewell's a player. He can play for sure.
Yeah. Like if you gave me 11 Josie Jewells on the defense, you're probably going to have a damn good team. Not to harken back to the Andy Janovich, 22 Janos, and we'd be fine. But he had a really good game. As far as not great games from the Broncos, and I think it was Jeremy talked about it as well. Justin Simmons with another poor game out here, but getting lost in space, getting lost in the sauce, leaving his assignment, not great tackling. Justin Simmons outside of that Baltimore game, has had a pretty bad season overall for the Broncos this year, and definitely has been disappointing. The other guy who I thought was disappointing in this game Kareem Jackson. Both your safeties look pretty slow out there. You're going to move on from Kareem next year. Hopefully Justin Simmons regains a little bit. I know he had that serious injury week 1, even that he might still be dealing with a little bit of that. But safeties look both pretty damn poor.
Can Ronald Darby move to a safety spot? I mean, he's on a $13 million cap hit with a $3 million dead cap, so he's not playing on that contract next year. Can you move him around a little bit as a free safety again? Not somebody I need to come in and be a thumper, obviously, but
I don't think so.
Coverage space.
I don't think so, because you put so much on your safeties in the lighter boxes, and especially if you're playing match quarters, they're in charge of that D gap coming downhill. No doubt about it. You in the too high safety world, we've kind of really left the station of the teams that are built like the 2013 Seahawks, where you have Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor. You know which guys dropping and which guys coming into the box. Like there's no question. Now we kind of have a little bit. The safeties are more homogenous and they're playing the same role. So that way we don't know who's dropping. We don't know who's coming. Are they both coming? Are we playing invert cover too? So those are all things that I think with Darby's inability to come down and really be a downhill player in the D gap, I don't see that from him.
What would you offer Darby a pay cut? What would you? I mean, like I said, he's got. If you don't keep him, it's going to cost you $3 million. So, what would you offer him for next year? Because you're not keeping. He's not making 13. He's not playing on that contract next year. I promise you. What do you offer him?
I'm offering him a chance to go play somewhere else, and hopefully somebody kicks you a 6th-round pick or something for that to move the salary off.
You'd have to do the contract first.
I probably would.
So you'd have to and get that 6th-round pick. You would have to get that 6th-round pick. You would have to eat $10 million of his contract.
That much? Man, maybe it's a 5th-round pick then. But I don't know right now. I think that I've been pretty impressed with Mathis. Kwan Williams has been great at the nickel spot. I think Mathis long-term is probably best in the nickel given his physicality, but you can never have too many corners. But I'm honestly looking to save the cap space as much as anything, because the offense needs as much help as it can get. And how much can you save? 10 million? That can be
you'd save good. 10. You'd save 10. It's going to cost you 3. He's on 13 with a 3 dead cap. You save 10 by just cutting him.
I can get a starting running back and a starting interior offensive lineman for that 10 million next season.
But then it costs you 2 to bring him back. That's what I'm saying. So do you offer him 5 and it costs you $2 million to have Ronald Darby? Is that worth it?
For $5 million? Yeah, but I can't imagine that he'd take that.
That's what I said. But so what are you offering him? Coming off an injury, he's already there. What would you offer him? I mean, 5. Hey, you can take 5 or you can take your chances. You probably say I'd take your chances, but I'd have him for 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 5.5. I think is
because he's costing you 3 no matter what.
Yeah. I'd rather have good players than not have good players. And when he's healthy, he's a good player, and cornerback's a position where depth matters a heck of a lot, because once you get a guy out there who doesn't belong, the whole defense tanks.
And I guess to get him at 5, you'd have to offer him 2. So
yeah.
So that probably isn't going to happen. Otherwise, if you waive him and sign him for 5, he costs you 8, because the 3 is a guaranteed number. So yeah. So yeah, he's gone. He's going to get cut. A lot of Simmons talk in here. Justin Simmons is on a very, very similar deal to Garrett Bowles, where it's about 18 and 10, 18 and 9, where he's got an 18 million cap hit and a 10 or 9 million dead cap hit. So you save 10 if you were just to do a straight cut on him. The problem is again, trying to move him would be his salary. So what would his base be? How much of that would you be willing to eat? Let me see because I think it's 18 with his base is going to be pretty high because he's already gone through a lot of his bonuses. So his 2023 base salary is 14.4. Yeah.
You probably keep
if you're looking to save money now, what it would be worth if you're getting a big pick for him, hey, here's a 1st and a 2nd, then you're not worried about the money as much.
Yeah, if you're getting a 1st and 2nd, but I think you're probably more likely talking a 2 and a 3.
And then someone that's only willing to trade you a 2 or a 3 probably isn't going to want to pay $14 million for a safety.
Yeah. I think you're probably a year early on the Justin Simmons moving on train. Also, big thing with Justin Simmons, next season is probably training and working with a new safety next to him. Do you want a complete overhaul of the safety spot next season? I don't think so. So probably keeping Justin Simmons around another year. Let's say the Broncos are 2-5 entering the trade deadline next year. We're having a conversation around then to move that salary off to roll over more cap space and get those picks to probably move on from Russell Wilson if you are 2-5. But I think we're a year early on that. Simmons is going to have another season here.
And Gandhi comes in. He says Simmons has excellent contact for a trade. Yeah, for the Broncos, but he's got a high salary, which makes him tough to move. So that's where makes him a good trade candidate. But if I have to talk someone into paying him $14 million and send me draft picks, that ain't such a great contract for a trade.
Yeah. Yeah, not a great one for a trade. We will I think it's probably year off. And it's also one thing that the Broncos ate a bunch of money when they traded Von Miller to get a second and third. I'm guessing you probably are eating some money to make it easier for a team to
right. They paid $8 million to get a second round pick.
Yep.
They traded him for a third, or they paid $8 million. However you want to look at it, they paid his salary because they were already out of it. You're not doing that in the offseason.
No.
They did that once they already decided they weren't playoff contenders and were willing to pay for the future. You're not doing that in the offseason where I'm going to take a cap hit before we even kick a ball.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. So I think it's a year early on the Justin Simmons trade talk contract, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess some negatives in the game. Also, I want to talk a little bit more positives on the defensive side of the ball. I thought that Draymond Jones had a really good game. I think he had a sack in this one. Baron Browning as well, getting after it pretty well. And Damari Mathis, the reason we can have this conversation about Darby right now is because Damari Mathis has been playing good football, and Kwan Williams. Obviously, you went back and watched the game. Did Damari Mathis stand out to you that much out here? I feel like he's gotten better every game. I know he had that baptism by fire game week 5 where he had the 4 pass interferences, but I think he's been playing pretty darn good football, and he brings a physicality downhill. He's not always perfect in coverage, but the tackling, the physical nature. I would be perfectly fine if your starting cornerback trio next season was Mathis, Williams, and Surtain on the other side.
Yeah, I think you're in pretty good shape there. I like his swagger. He's really physical, which I like. We're talking about Mathis here because I've been singing the praises of Williams and his physical ability on the edge when he basically walks up and is the edge defender. He's got to steal that edge on the backside at times. I've been singing his praises all year. Great to have him back out there. And Mathis, again, I said the worry about you don't want to get a label as a guy who is easy to throw a pass interference flag on. I think he has played past that, or else we would have seen a pass interference call on him on that face guard in the end zone. That was borderline, and he didn't get the call. Good for him. He plays with a little bit of a swagger, like a little bit of a, hey, I was drafted late and I shouldn't have been. Look at me now, which I like. You got to be like that as a corner. They got to have real short memories because it's a position where you're going to get picked on in a passing league. So he's been pretty good this year. Even if he elevates just a little bit next year, I think you're in good shape. I do. It gives you some very good options, like cutting Ronald Darby and saving $10 million on the cap.
Yeah, 100%. And coming off his best game ever, I think probably this is going to be a game that's going to drive a lot of conversation going forward. We got Warren coming in here saying Jerry Jeudy trade to the Ravens. Yeah, the Ravens would probably use about anybody at wide receiver right now. So Jerry Jeudy had a great game, and he's probably your most dynamic wide receiver out here. Justin Simmons has been really just unfortunately poor this season for the Broncos overall. And Jerry Jeudy had a coming alive party. There was a lot of talk of the Broncos shopping Jerry Jeudy at the trade deadline. They didn't find a trade that was worth his value. Daniel Jeremiah was talking about the Broncos and like, what could you even trade for Jerry Jeudy? Maybe you get a 4th round pick for him because of how little he's done. Well, now he's, this is a game that you can hope on. You can see the traits. And if you go watch the film in this game, he was open more than he was targeted, which is wild to say. Maybe he gets, becomes more of the first read going forward, given how quickly he can get open. But my question is, let's say this Broncos team is still potentially interested in trading Jerry Jeudy this offseason. What would it take for you to be even interested, or is he off the table after this one game outburst sample size?
No, he's not off the table. I think we start a conversation with a second, and then we go from there. Again, he's Is he the guy you want around? I mean, again, I mentioned he's a little bit of a diva, and that's okay. That's okay. He's young. But is he the guy when you're basically, I'm a new coach, I'm starting over? Is he somebody I feel like I can upgrade on if I get a second and a fifth? Maybe a second, and I'm picking up the phone and we're having that conversation. Because again, he is going into his fourth year next year. We've said before, at this point, you're not picking up his fifth year option, which would knock him on the door of $15 million for his fifth year. So do you move him now? Maybe. That was one of my first thoughts. Was it's nice to have options. You know, when these guys aren't playing, when KJ Hamler isn't playing, I don't have any options with him. A good player is, I mean, I know how ridiculous this sounds, but it's good not just because it helps your team, because it also gives you options if you need to make a move. And that was a big game for him. So that was a great day for Jerry Jeudy and the Denver Broncos. And North Star came in a little late because you started off early. He's on Facebook, and just Luke Wattenberg. What did you think about him? North Star West, he wasn't ready, and it showed. And then I'm watching, and they're just rotating left guards in there. Like, well, maybe I'll just try this guy. No, he's getting his ass kicked. Okay, let me try this guy. No, he's getting his butt kicked too. It's bad. It's bad. And I guess Dalton Reisner hasn't been good, but he was better than what we saw yesterday out of the three guys that rotated into left guard. So you need help at interior line. I think I've said 6. I want 6 new linemen coming in for the 90, trying out for the team. I want 3 draft picks and 3 free agents.
Definitely needs an investment in the position, no doubt. Chris Hernandez coming in, I think, with the Stars here. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, God bless you. And coming back to the Jerry Jeudy talk, I'm looking for 2 day 2 picks for him, given what the wide receiver market is right now, and given how much you need playmakers on this offense going into next season. You're going to have to damn well overpay for me to even consider it. So, a 2 and a 3, 2 2s, 3 3s and a 5. I mean, something like that. Okay, I pick up the phone, I'm listening, but you're going to have to put up a borderline. You're buying that first round or former first round pick price tag with somebody who's number 1 in the NFL in yards per route run on man coverage this season, per reception, per target. I don't remember the exact specifics of that, but Jerry Jeudy's been pretty good here. He's never going to be a guy who makes spectacular catches, and one reason that he has to win this way is because he does tend to struggle in those contested catch situations. But he's a really good receiver, and given where the market is for wide receiver right now, you're going to have to pay. And also, the other part of this is that I think NFL teams are not super enthralled with this upcoming wide receiver draft class. I think you can kind of see the writing on the wall. It seems like there's some talking heads that are starting to talk about that. And given what the Bears traded for Chase Claypool, who's Chase Claypool, who is fine, but not incredible. They were going to trade what right now it looks like the 34th overall pick to the Steelers for Chase Claypool. I mean, God, Jerry Jeudy is better than Chase Claypool, so we need something at least like that.
I don't know much about Chase Claypool. As you were handing that over, I was looking up his numbers, but again, Jerry Jeudy, some of it becomes part of the immaturity and the attitude. How much is he? We've talked about that. You have mentioned the fact that some people in Dove Valley don't particularly like how he conducts himself online. You see almost, it was borderline. You gave the ref a decision yesterday. The decision went your way, but you could have been tossed out of the game yesterday. So, how much of it is also how bad do we want him here and what could we get for him? As you start talking to me about a second round pick, I start listening at that point. So it's not like this is a team leader that is he might be a big part of the locker room, but that might not be a good thing.
Yeah.
Going over to Melvin Gordon and complaining about this, throwing your hat out. Jerry Jeudy storming off the field, ripping off his helmet. He's really mad about, another 3 and out. I like that fire, but it's not always a positive thing.
Yeah, 100%. And as we start to wrap it up in here, something we talked about, I want to say hello to some people coming in, though. Ryan Thompson, morning, fellows, Broncos country, thinks the team needs to find a decent backup behind Russ. Yes, they do, for multiple reasons. Brett Rippon is a borderline rosterable quarterback, so you got to move on from him if you can. He seems like a great, intelligent guy, but we're judging the product on the field and the quarterback ability, and he's just I don't even love him as a third stringer because I don't think there's much developmental upside. But as your backup, not great. Will the Broncos draft a quarterback this cycle? Very possible. I don't think first round pick conversation, but day 2, day 3 for sure. Also, I think they probably should pay somebody, somebody like a Jacoby Brissett or somebody with a chance to get up there. The Saints have gotten a lot of mileage out of Andy Dalton this season as their backup, I guess, third string quarterback behind Taysom Hill as well. So it's definitely somebody like that needs to be in the conversation, partially because of Russ's play style. Injuries starting to add up. He's going to be 34, 35 years old next year. Also, another part is Russell Wilson. Let's say the Broncos are off the rails next season. We're in the same situation we are right now with how this team looks next year. You're almost second overall pick, 3 wins, just bad. You probably moving on from Russell Wilson then with the dead cap hit with a 2024 post June 1st designation. Salary becomes guaranteed if he's injured. So you're probably not playing him to make sure that he doesn't get injured. So that way you can move on from him. I know it's a terrible conversation to have, but it's ones that right now are within the realm of possibilities that at least we need to be thinking about.
And the difference is the number 2 pick would actually be yours.
Yeah.
That would be, that's a big difference. As Ethan, we'll get to Ethan's comment here after we say good morning to Mark Schrader. Come with some stars. Good morning, sir. Hope you had a great weekend, because Ethan coming in hot pink here. He says, Broncos' current draft position is number 2 overall. Picks in round 1 and 2 go to Seattle, no matter where the Broncos finish. On the other side, the Broncos would have the number 2 pick in the 3rd, which is basically where you took Nick Bonito, like 3 or 4 spots there. 4th and 5th rounds, and also currently have a 7th pick in the number 7 pick in the 3rd from Indy. So just running through the numbers, 25, 66, 71, 105, 138, 248. You got 5 picks in the top 150 going into next year. I can get help. I can get a lot of help on my interior lines and maybe an offensive tackle on there. And that, from a X's and O's standpoint, outside of the quarterback, if we talked about if Russell Wilson is washed, then I've got to have a quarterback. But the positions to me that need the most help are your offensive line. That would do the least amount of financial or draft investment that would do the most good would be on your interior offensive line.
100%.
I can fix those with the picks I got.
At least put a dent in it.
I can improve with the picks I've got.
Yes. Yep, 100%. You're also probably tossing in some sort of free agent acquisition on that line as well, which could change things. Again, I think he's just an average player, but average is awesome at the tackle spot if you can get it. So I'd bring back Cam Fleming. Other spots here, just talking long-term perspective on the Broncos. You probably are considering wide receiver early, because it's not just, Jerry Jeudy, would he only have 1 year left on his contract after this year? I don't think they're probably exercising that 5th year option right now. Granted, conversations can change after how he played yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
KJ Hamler, it does sound like he won't be back. We'll see how that plays out here. The other one is Courtland Sutton and Tim Patrick. Both those guys have contracts that are easy to move on from after 2023 overall. And that's something you probably are considering right now with where this team is at. So that puts you in dire straits at the wide receiver position. The other spot where you need to have a conversation is probably edge rusher right now. Randy Gregory's contract is really easy to move on after next season. We saw him very little this year, but there was always a 2-year deal with option years after that. The dead cap hit is pretty big if you do move on from him, but it's certainly a possibility if he's going to get paid the way this contract is set up. And he hasn't been healthy. Nick Bonito looks like a rotational edge rusher with a ace trait, but not a 4-down or 3-down player. So those are expensive spots where the way this team has been built right now, you have options to get younger, cheaper, and maybe better moving on from them. So offensive tackle, offensive line, number 1, I think edge rusher and wide receiver are up there as well, though.
Yeah, and Jeremy comes in. I want to look at the numbers, but why wouldn't you bring back Hamler on his rookie deal? He wants out. He's making noise about wanting out, and he's not catching footballs.
Yeah, I think it's if I was in charge and you could have him back, you're probably not going to get very much from him if you do move on from him. So I think it's better to keep him, but I'm not reporting that he doesn't want to be here. But if he doesn't want to be here, then it's going to be hard to keep him around.
There's a glitch on Spot Rack right now that has Quinn Bailey with a $2.15 billion cap hit. So there's your money, man. Get rid of him. He's taken up half the purchase price. So I was looking up KJ Hamler, and his is guaranteed, so you wouldn't get him much. So unless you can't cut him. You can trade him for a 7th, even a conditional 7th, or we're going to swap this. Basically, you just need somebody to pick up his salary.
Yeah, somebody will take a shot on him for like a 7th round pick or something and hope they get healthy. I mean, that's something that if I was a contending team and I had a lot of draft picks at the end, it's going to cost you almost nothing.
It might not even be that. It would be. I'm going to send you. You're going to send me a 6th, and I'm going to send you a 7th and KJ Hamler. But you're gonna pay his salary.
The Malik Reed trade.
It could be a salary cap move also, where you're not getting picks for him. You're just clearing his salary. Because if you cut him, you don't clear his salary because he's on a guaranteed rookie deal.
Yep. So certainly a possibility. Well, Broncos country, it was a loss, but it was a fun loss, and the Broncos showed a lot of heart and fought back. A lot of guys showed out. Hopefully, it's going to be better here. We're going to be monitoring the Russell Wilson situation this next week. If Russell Wilson is healthy, it's probably your most winnable game the rest of the season with the Arizona Cardinals. But are the Cardinals coming off a bye week? If they have a bye week before the Broncos game, that's really ticks me off because we can't catch a break.
We might know the Colts and the Cardinals play tonight, so they're on a short week.
Oh, even
so no complaining. No complaining. They're on a short week.
They playing the Patriots?
Yeah.
Ooh, it's maybe a chance to watch your future Denver Broncos head coach and Jared Mayo. Who knows? He's a heck of a linebacker for that team for a number of years and apparently just adored in the coaching circles right now. Not the D'Amico Ryan level, but he's up there. So keep an eye on him. And yeah, definitely it's a fun game. Fun as much as a loss can be fun, and appreciated how this team fought back with a lot of fun things to talk about. And we're going to be able to continue to talk about it tomorrow even. So make sure you guys are tuning in. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BFB_pod and at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you're on Facebook at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says underneath there, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. So that way, when we go live, you get that bell notification like, hey, Building Broncos for breakfast, Mile High Insiders, whatever, Huddle Up podcast. We're live. Come and join and hang out in the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Scott, what's the rest of your day looking like? Any final thoughts before we get on out of here?
Got to get some work to do. I slept in a little bit today, so got the pods going. I gotta get some work done today. So we'll be having some press cut ups on Mile Huddle, so you don't have to sit through 2 hours of them. I'll have probably 3 or 4 cuts on the YouTube channel here that will be going live in the next hour or so. So keep an eye on that. Another reason to have your notifications going on YouTube.
Yeah, 100%. Well, guys, we appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. Good to see you, Todd, coming in with the smiley face there. Also, our guy Kaleon's in the house too. Good to see you, Kaleon. We will see you guys again tomorrow morning, bright and early. But until then, make sure you continue to choose compassion and kindness. Go Broncos.